The New York afternoon sun poured over Times Square like a giant oven, bouncing off billboards and glass skyscrapers. Lana Cross wove through the tourist crowd, dragging a beat-up portable speaker that rattled over the pavement. The red horns atop her white and teal hair made people stare, but most just assumed it was some street dancer cosplay. Lana stopped at a small gap in the sidewalk where the shadow of a giant billboard cut the heat, then set the speaker down. She checked her phone. 5:03 p.m. 2 more sets, and this month's rent in Queens wouldn't be a nightmare. Lana drew a deep breath, hit play, and stepped into a square of pavement tiles as if stepping onto her own private stage. She spun, then snapped her shoulders and hips to the beat, each popping move as sharp as a finger snap. The crowd layered up around her, phones lifting into the air, soft whoas rippling as coins clinked into the hat in front of her speaker. A little boy pointed at Lana's horns, laughing as he tugged his mother's hand. "Mom, look, she's got devil horns." Lana winked at him and slammed her heel down to end a combo. The pavement trembled softly, like a hidden drum beat echoing from deep below. No one noticed the tremor. Lana knew it wasn't just the speaker's bass. She ignored it, pretending it was part of the show. She bowed, grabbed the hat to quickly count the cash, then got ready to tap into the next track. This time the ground shook harder. A deep thoom rolled up from beneath the street like some enormous beast turning over. Several tourists staggered, a billboard shuddered violently, and dust shook loose from a high window. Lana straightened, heart kicking up as a familiar, frightening feeling crawled down her spine. She set the hat down, and her hand went instinctively to the red horn at her temple, as if checking it was still there. The ground shook again, this time continuous, deep and heavy. Glass panels on nearby buildings began to whine. "Earthquake!" someone shouted, panic breaking through their voice. New York wasn't a place people trained for earthquakes. Fear spread faster than any aftershock. Lana felt the shock waves pass through her body as if someone were knocking rhythm directly into her bones. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, trying to separate natural tremors from something wrong. Then the street in front of her split. A black gash opened along the avenue as if someone had carved a knife straight through the city's map. A yellow cab was swallowed halfway, its nose diving into the fissure as its back wheels spun uselessly in the air. From the bottom of the fissure came not just dust, but a strange pale gold glow, like lighting from a hidden subway system no map had ever shown. Lana stepped back, yet her feet felt dragged toward the edge where the strongest vibrations were converging. In that instant, she clearly heard something climbing up from below. Claws scraping against rock, slow but certain. A stone-shelled hand, cracked and gray like a cliff face, thrust up and latched onto the street's broken edge. The nearby crowd broke into screams and scattered, leaving abandoned suitcases and backpacks strewn across the sidewalk. Lana should have run too. Instead, she stepped forward, the vibrations inside her body syncing with whatever was climbing out. A stone-armored creature hauled itself fully out, body like a warrior encased in crystal-laced rock, eyes glowing yellow-green in a featureless face. It turned toward the dangling cab, as if deciding whether to shove the car and its driver down into the depths. "Not a chance," Lana hissed through her teeth. She stepped fully onto the street, squaring off with the creature. With each heartbeat, the pavement around her feet trembled, thin ripples spreading out like circles on water. Lana raised her hands, fingers trembling. "Okay, Cross. Either you save them, or you let all of New York see what you really are." She slammed both heels down, dragging the underground vibrations into a single point beneath her. A blinding white shockwave exploded out from Lana, racing down the street. The air warped as if bent, dust and debris blasting backward, and the stone creature was hurled backward, smashing into the fissure wall before plummeting down, its fall echoing like a boulder dropped into a well. The cab rocked, then slowly tipped back toward the street, rear wheels slamming onto solid ground in a jarring bounce but not falling in. Lana panted, head buzzing. When she looked up, dozens of phones were pointed right at her, recording every second. On a corner building, a huge LED screen flicked to a news channel. Rapid clips showed similar fissures tearing open in Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston.
Breaking news.
"It's not just here," Lana whispered, her palms still buzzing from the shockwave. Thousands of miles away, beneath the deep rock of the North American continent, a colossal armored mass slowly opened its yellow-green eyes. It felt Lana's shockwave like a raindrop on still water, stirring ancient memories of war and fire. Abyss King Morvax moved for the first time in millennia, his voice vibrating through stone. The surface disrupts the balance again. On the surface, Lana still stood in the fractured heart of Times Square, breathing hard under 100 fearful, awed stares, unaware that her shockwave had just awakened something buried in the planet's core. On the west coast, the Los Angeles afternoon sun laid a thin gold sheet over the I-110, where traffic was jammed as usual. Vivian Chase sat behind the wheel of her black sedan, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel, her leather jacket making her hotter, but she refused to take it off. On the radio, the announcer repeated for the 10th time, "Unusual fissures in New York. Chicago and Houston are." Vivian shut it off. She had just decided to pull over when the asphalt ahead suddenly sagged, as if someone had yanked an invisible pillar out from under the middle lane. A dry, brutal crack rang out, and the stretch of freeway along an overpass began to fracture and buckle like broken teeth. Vivian slammed the brakes on instinct, her car skidding sideways and stopping right at the edge of the new void. A section of the overpass snapped loose, dragging a packed minivan down with it, wheels spinning wildly in midair. Without thinking, Vivian threw her door open and sprinted onto the pavement. She flung her arms toward the collapsing overpass, her palms tingling like they'd been shocked. A translucent field burst from her hands, arching into a huge shield that cupped the falling overpass and minivan. Instead of plummeting, the entire section hung suspended inside the shield, shivering but intact. Drivers on the remaining lanes stared, phones lifting into camera mode as if by instinct in this era.
Oh my goodness.
"Hold. Just a little longer." Vivian gritted her teeth, pouring all her will into the shield, refusing to let anyone fall. Up north, Chicago's sky was slate gray, wind cutting along the river while Amber Quinn was running late. She rode her motorcycle toward a suspension bridge where traffic crawled, city buses packed tight. As Amber reached the middle, the bridge deck trembled under her tires like a freight train was passing directly beneath. A steel girder groaned. A crack raced along the bridge's spine, and the center span suddenly dropped several feet. A city bus slid toward the guardrail, passengers tumbling to one side inside. Amber threw her bike toward the side, leaping from the seat in one fluid motion, landing with her body already shifting into super speed. Time seemed to slow. Screams stretched into a long, wavering sound while Amber zipped from person to person inside the tilting bus, hauling them toward the exit. Each footfall on the bus floor sent out a kinetic ring, nudging the whole vehicle inch by inch back from the edge. When time snapped back, the bus rested on the stable section of the bridge, doors flung open, passengers sprawled on the asphalt, but alive. In Miami, the sun hammered the harbor waters, light bouncing off stacks of colorful containers.
Oh my goodness.
Ash Walker sat on a crate, orange hat low, a half-burned cigarette on his lip. He'd been hired as a night guard, but it was mid-afternoon and he was bored out of his skull, until the concrete between the containers dipped. Seawater sprayed up through a forming crack, then drained away, leaving a deep black hole whose sides sparkled with mineral crystals. From it, stone-shelled creatures crawled out like crabs from a burrow, only human tall and with eyes burning low. Ash sighed, crushed his cigarette on the crate edge, then stood up, clenching his fists as tiny sparks dripped from between his fingers. "On my shift, really?" he muttered, then swung his arm, sending an arc of fire sweeping across the container lanes. In Seattle, the rain had just stopped, streaks of water clinging to downtown windows. Mira Solis and Logan Rhodes stood on the roof of a parking garage, watching the streets below. "You sure it's coming up here?" Mira asked, fingers spinning the hilt of her gold short blade. "Dr. Grant has never read a tremor map wrong," Logan replied, eyes fixed on the block between two skyscrapers. The street below suddenly bulged, concrete breaking into chunks, forming a short pillar that collapsed into a wide fissure between the buildings. "Showtime," Logan said, drawing his softly vibrating sword, its blade gleaming pale blue. Mira leapt off the roof, her body melting into a thin gust of wind before reforming mid-air, landing lightly on the cracking street. Stone-armored creatures emerged in a cluster, bodies jagged like living walls. Mira traced an arc with her short blade, leaving behind ghost images of herself slashing through them. Logan dropped from another rooftop, swinging his sword. The vibrations along its edge sliced a creature cleanly from top to bottom like brittle foam. While these scattered battles raged across the U.S., deep under Colorado, Dr. Elias Grant stood before a wall of screens covered in seismographic lines. Red dots glowed on a U.S. map. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, Seattle, connected by tangled tunnels reaching deep into the earth. "Morvax," he whispered, calling the name like an old nightmare. Grant opened a dusty old folder labeled Abyssal Defense System, Classified. He hit a button on the console, sending encrypted pings to devices only he and a handful of people had ever known about. An earpiece in Vivian's car, Amber's phone, Ash's guard radio, Mira and Logan's comms, and Lana's cracked phone in New York. The monitor in front of him showed 6 biometric graphs, each person carrying abnormal energy signatures linked to subterranean tremors. "You're not outliers anymore," Grant murmured to himself. "You're the front line." A day later, a small jet touched down on a hidden airstrip nestled in the Colorado mountains near Denver. Lana, Vivian, Amber, Ash, Mira, and Logan stepped out one by one, each still bearing marks of their city's battle. They were led into an industrial elevator that descended deep into the mountain, where Dr. Grant's base was carved into the rock. The doors opened onto a wide control room, ringed with screens and dominated by a massive wall displaying the nation's seismic map. Grant turned, gray hair tousled, glasses sliding down his nose.
I told you it was a good
"Welcome
idea.
to the deepest place your government refuses to admit exists,"
Not always.
Amber whistled. "Nice villain lair," Ash snorted. "Let's hope you're on our side." Grant pointed at the map. The red tunnel lines connecting the cities now stretched beyond
We've analyzed
America,
the breach.
reaching toward other
Data loss
continents.
is significant, and
"This
the
isn't
timeline
just
for
America's
recovery is
problem,"
extremely
he
tight.
said. "But right now, our soil is ground zero,"
We must
Lana
remain
spoke up.
vigilant.
"And Morvax, you know what it is?" Grant typed a few keys, switching the screen to a 3D model of Earth's core wrapped in a stone-like armor structure. "Morvax was once a natural defense system," he said. "A seismic balancing mechanism to keep Earth stable, until we drilled too deep, too greedily." Logan looked around. "And now it sees us as the enemy." Grant nodded. "As parasites on the surface." On the map, the red dots flashed more intensely, signaling more fissures opening nationwide. Grant
Something
turned
is
back
very
to them.
wrong.
"But you're not ordinary people anymore. Your powers resonate with the same tremors Morvax is using." He held up a small metal emblem etched with earth encircled by 6 interlocking rings. "If you choose it, from now on, this will be the Geo Guardians." Lana looked around at the others. Vivian cool and steady, Amber bright, Ash scowling, Mira calm, Logan stone solid, then nodded. "Okay," she said. "If the abyss wants to swallow the earth, it goes through us first." The Chicago sky wore a layer of gray clouds, cold wind running along the river and turning the water into streaks of silver. Near Millennium Park, tourists clustered around Cloudgate, snapping warped reflections of themselves in the beam. Far below, deeper than any subway tunnel, silent tremor lines crossed and lit up a red point on Dr. Grant's map in Denver. Chicago, Grant said quietly, then hit the alarm. Red warning lights began to pulse in the room. In the base quarters, Lana yanked on her jacket. Amber tied her hair up. Vivian snatched her earpiece from the table. Ash crushed a cigarette. Mira closed her sword bag, and Logan tightened his kimono belt. The jet's hatch opened, icy high-altitude air slapping their faces as it banked over Chicago. Below, downtown moved as usual, until the ground over a block near Millennium Park rippled like a lake before a storm. "This is the epicenter," Grant said over comms. "Lana, Logan, Mira, go under. Vivian, Ash, Amber, stay topside. Priority 1, civilians." The jet dipped low, dropping them onto the roof of a parking garage near Millennium Park. As their boots hit the concrete, a massive wha-ump thundered up from the streets. They rushed to the railing and looked down. A colossal sinkhole was opening, swallowing an intersection as a corner building slid into it. "Split up," Vivian said, not waiting for more orders. "Topside with me." Lana turned to Logan and Mira. "We go down. Find the source. Try not to die." Amber tapped Lana's hand quickly, like passing on luck. "See you back on the surface." Vivian, Ash, and Amber sprinted for the stairwell toward the plaza and park. Lana, Logan, and Mira jumped to a lower rooftop, moving toward the sinkhole's rim. On the street, the roadway beside Millennium Park was gone, replaced by a jagged-mouthed crater so deep the bottom was invisible. Cloudgate now reflected not the sky and buildings, but the dark void of the sinkhole, like a black stain on its steel surface. Vivian ran into the street, raising her hands to form an energy dome over a group trapped between lanes of cars. A chunk of sidewalk collapsed beside them, stone and metal dumping into the pit but bouncing off Vivian's dome like rain off glass. Ash stood at the crater's rim, peering into the rising dust, mineral heat washing over his face. "Never liked staring straight into hell," he muttered, raising his hand as a small flame bloomed between his fingers. He flicked his wrist, tossing a chain of fireballs into the crater, lighting up layers of rock and shapes crawling upward. Amber appeared beside him as if she'd teleported, when really, she'd just run faster than normal eyes could track. "How many still trapped?" she asked, eyes sweeping the collapse zone. Vivian answered over comms. "Bus stuck on the east side, building not fully evacuated on the north. Amber, take the building."
Copy that. I'm gone.
Amber shot off, leaving only a smear of orange and blue weaving between rubble piles. Meanwhile, Lana, Logan, and Mira stood on a rooftop at the very edge of the pit, staring into the pale gold gloom below. "Got a plan?" Mira asked, voice calm as if they were picking a coffee shop. "Jump, don't die, hit things, climb back up," Lana replied. "Logan?" Logan added earnestly. "Focus on junction points. Sever those, the swarm gets stuck." Lana drew a breath and slammed her feet down. The rooftop trembled as a shockwave pressed the crater's edge into a slanted stone slide, leading downward. "There, hell slide," she said. "Let's go." The three ran down the stone ramp, daylight quickly retreating behind them, leaving only pale yellow glow from luminescent minerals along the walls. The air grew thick and hot. Lana felt each tremor pass through her chest like the heartbeat of some gigantic creature. "We're walking into its bloodstream," she muttered. Mira heard and smirked. "Then go for the heart and make it quick." The ramp opened into a massive cavern, the ceiling so high the dark swallowed it. In the center, stone had been hollowed into platforms where glowing mineral nests hung, stuffed with monster eggs. Lana swore under her breath. If all that hatches, Chicago's done. Logan pointed to several large tunnels feeding into the cavern like stone arteries. The junctions, there. Before they could move, a roar shook the chamber. From the biggest tunnel, a colossal creature emerged, 4 or 5 times taller than the usual monsters, armor thick as a fortress wall. Alpha Earthborn, Grant whispered over comms, disbelief edging his voice. Lana narrowed her eyes. Let's see how hard it really is. Mira split off to the left, melting into shadow and reappearing behind the Alpha, leaving a string of afterimages slashing at its armor gaps. Logan charged head-on, blade vibrating at full strength as he carved an upward slash from the creature's hip to shoulder, the cut glowing like lightning. The blade left a glowing trench, which faded. The thick shell cracked but did not break, as if only scratched. Perfect, Lana muttered. Endgame armor. The Alpha turned and swung an arm as thick as a pillar. The sheer force of the air from the sweep tossed all three of them backward. Lana slammed into a boulder, ears ringing. Mira flipped, skidding across rock and stopping beside a glowing egg cluster. Logan hit the cavern wall, cracks spiderwebbing out around him. Up top, Vivian barely shifted her protective dome to cover another group as the crater's edge spread, gnawing dangerously close to Cloudgate's base. A city bus was stranded half on, half off a broken stretch of road, ready to fall at any moment. Amber streaked in, a blur of orange, plucking people from the bus in seconds and leaving them sprawled but whole on the sidewalk. After the last passenger, Amber stomped the pavement, sending a pulse that nudged the bus's front, and back a few precious feet from the edge. On the opposite side, Ash used fire to slice through a small cluster of emerging monsters, forming a temporary wall of flame between them and stampeding civilians. Chicago Fire, Magic Edition, he dryly joked, sweat running down his temple. Back in the cavern, the Alpha Earthborn stomped. The entire chamber quaked, several egg clusters dropping from the ceiling and cracking open, spilling smaller armored larvae. We can't win the numbers game, Mira said, spinning her blade as a hatchling lunged. Logan braced a hand on the rock wall, breath ragged, blood staining his kimono. Sever the junctions and fall back. We're not killing this thing today. Lana clenched her teeth, staring past eggs and hatchlings. Mira, help Logan cut the tunnels. I'll dance with the big ugly a little longer. Mira didn't argue, grabbing Logan's arm and hauling them toward a junction, leaving behind the roar and repeated shockwave blasts from Lana's direction. Lana stomped, sending focused shockwave rings into the Alpha's legs, trying to drive it back from the chamber center and the egg nests. Each stomp made her body feel like it was cracking from the inside, but Lana didn't stop. Back up, Jumbo Boulder. At the first junction, Logan gestured to Mira. You cut high, I'll cut low. They swung together, Mira slicing the tunnel's ceiling, Logan the floor. Vibrations from their blades shattered rock between the cuts and the tunnel collapsed like a slammed door. One, Mira said, pulling a cloth over her mouth against the dust. They moved to the second junction, but each step was agony for Logan. Blood seeped from the wound on his chest, soaking his clothes.
We should take cover.
You don't have to overachieve on the hero thing, Mira said, not entirely joking. Old habit, Logan replied. Rock's still harder than my face, though. At the second junction, just as they lined up another strike, a smaller alpha-like beast burst from the ceiling, dropping like a flying boulder. Mira dragged Logan out of the main impact, but the creature's landing sent shards of stone slamming into him, flinging him against the wall. Logan collapsed, clutching his midsection as blood flowed faster. His bio readout on Grant's console flashed red. Logan is severely injured, Grant reported over comms. Geo Guardians, survival is priority. No one dies in Chicago. Lana heard him through the Alphas roaring. Mira, drag him toward the ramp. I'll pull them off you. Mira didn't answer, just nodded to herself, sheathing her blade and hoisting Logan over her shoulder, trudging toward the ramp. Lana retreated toward the opposite side, keeping the Alpha and hatchlings focused on her. With every backward step, she slammed her heel, sending targeted shockwaves at eyes, joints, any place less armored. But for every dented armor plate, 3 or 4 more hatchlings crawled from shattered nests. The surface, the crater's rim began to stabilize, but spiderweb cracks spread into neighboring blocks, tilting buildings and setting windows trembling non-stop. Vivian, Amber, and Ash were barely keeping chaos from turning into a localized apocalypse, and all of them knew they were just buying time. Down below, Lana felt her body begin to shake beyond her control. The tremors she drew on weren't just from the cavern anymore, but from somewhere deeper, older, like a second heartbeat inside Earth itself. Grant's voice crackled in her ear. "Lana, main junctions are down. Fall back. Repeat, fall back." Lana turned and saw, far off, Mira vanishing up the stone slope with Logan on her shoulder like an extra boulder. The Alpha roared again, the sound shaking not just the air but Lana's bones. And then, layered over that roar, another voice rose. Not through her earpiece, not through the air, but directly through the rock and into her head. "Surface child," the voice said, dragging each word as if it scraped through 100 layers of stone. Lana dropped to one knee, her own shockwaves breaking into useless ripples, no longer under her control. "You are a child of the fractures," the voice continued. "Yet you shield the parasites." "Morvax," Lana whispered, realizing the name wasn't spoken by anyone. It just surfaced from the stone around her into her thoughts. "Order has been broken by the surface," Morvax said. "I will break your sky first, then sleep again." Lana dragged in a ragged breath, gathering every scrap of strength into one last shockwave, not to attack, but to fling herself toward the ramp. The blast cracked the ceiling further, sending huge boulders crashing down between Lana and the Alpha, blocking its line of sight for the moment. Lana rolled to the base of the ramp, dragging herself upright on her elbows, her whole body jelly. "Fallen back," she muttered into comms. Mira met her halfway up, having laid Logan on a flatter stone slab. The 3 of them started climbing, the Alpha's roars booming behind them. As they neared the light spilling from the crater's mouth, Lana glanced back one last time. Through gaps in the rock, she caught a flicker of Morvax's golden glow, far beneath even this cavern. "We've only scraped its skin," she thought. This whole fight was just a knock on the door. The 3 emerged from the crater as rescue crews set up more barriers. Vivian dropped her dome, Amber stood bent double catching her breath, and Ash let the firewall die away. A paramedic rushed to Logan, checked his pulse and widened his eyes at the wound. "We need a stretcher now." Grant's voice came through, tired but relieved. "Chicago's junction is severed. The swarm won't flood back here anytime soon." "You did well." Lana lay on the cracked asphalt, staring up at Chicago's gray sky. "Morvax said it'd break the sky," she panted. "Looks like it started." "Here." Amber slid down beside her, back against a police cruiser. "Then we'll stitch it back together, one city at a time." Lana closed her eyes, letting gentle tremors flow through her again. Not to strike, but to listen. Deep below, Morvax was silent. But the silence wasn't an ending. It was a promise. The Chicago sinkhole war ended with the city still standing. But the fractures, in the streets, in the buildings, and inside Lana, would not heal quickly. The Colorado mountain base felt unnaturally quiet after Chicago. Only fans whirred, keys clicked, and biometric monitors beeped softly. Logan lay on a medical bed, chest bound in white bandages, brown stains where the blood had dried. The monitor beside him showed a steady but fragile heartbeat. Mira sat in a chair beside him, chin propped on her hand, eyes never leaving his face. "You don't get to die. You hear me?" she murmured, knowing he couldn't. In the control room, Dr. Grant stood before the screen wall, replaying Chicago's data as layered seismic rings. Each bright ring was one of Lana's shockwaves, interlaced with deeper, heavier pulses, Morvax's own rhythm. 2 different sources, same language, Grant muttered. Lana, Vivian, Amber, and Ash stood behind him, half in battle gear, half in hastily applied medical patches. "So what exactly is Morvax?" Amber asked, leaning back against the wall, legs still shaking after her sprint with death. Grant didn't answer right away. He turned to the console and opened a directory labeled Archive, Top Secret, Abyssal.
Documents the critical turning point.
Isamol.
The integration of these assets.
The main screen switched to old photos. Offshore rigs in Alaska, Texas, deserts dotted with pump jacks, experimental deep drill sites in the Rockies. 20 years ago, Grant began. The government funded a program called the Abyssal Defense Initiative. The images shifted to diagrams of Earth's crust, isotherms, and spiraling symbols around the planet's core. We discovered a self-adjusting seismic system below the core, like the planet's immune system. Amber frowned. "You mean Morvax is like a massive vaccine?" "Not exactly a vaccine," Grant said. "An abyssal defense system. Morvax was created to handle threats that don't come from the surface." The screen flashed images hard to parse, ancient impact scars on Earth's crust, simulations of rogue objects slamming into the planet. "Morvax once kept us safe from things out there," Grant said softly. "But we poked it." Ash folded his arms. "Let me guess. Dr. Grant used to be on that program." Grant didn't deny it. He queued up an old video of a younger himself standing by a core model, presenting to a panel. "We can tune Morvax, make it sleep deeper, reduce interference with the surface," younger Grant said in the video. The video stopped. Older Grant stood still, as if staring at his own past sentencing. "Deep drills in Alaska, Texas, the Rockies," Grant continued. "We woke it up too hard. Morvax stopped telling threats apart from surface parasites." Lana gave a dry laugh. "So from its angle, we're the disease to fix." Vivian cut in. "Great. At least it's logical. So what's the plan? Negotiate with an underground immune system?" Grant switched to a new diagram. A dense tangle of tunnels beneath Yellowstone, highlighted in red and labeled Abyssal Crossroads. "This is the main junction of the cave network," he explained. "If we reach it, we can access Morvax's interface layer." Amber raised her brows. "Sounds like talking to a kaiju's user interface." "We're not talking to it," Vivian said. "We're rewriting its code, right?" Grant nodded, pulling a small metal case from a safe drawer. "This is the reboot key, a device to inject counter-phase tremors into the interface layer. In simple terms, it resets Morvax into deep sleep mode," he said quietly. "If you get close enough." Ash shrugged. "Sounds like a 0% survival mission. I'm in." Vivian shot him a look. "You're not smoking underground." Lana eyed the device in Grant's hands. "If we pull it off, Morvax goes back to sleep. If we fail," Grant met her gaze, "then Morvax finishes its assessment, and Earth starts over, without us." The room went silent for a few seconds as each of them pictured an Earth with no cities, no roads, no them. Hours later, night draped over the Colorado peaks, but in the hangar, white lights glared off the jet being prepped for Yellowstone. Logan had to stay behind, hooked to IV lines and monitors, his face holding a fake kind of peace under clinical lighting. Mira stood in the doorway, watching him through the glass, fingertips resting lightly on the cold pane. "You owe me a drink in Seattle when this is over," she said softly, then turned away. On the jet, Lana buckled in, watching Denver's nightlights recede through the small window. Amber sat across from her, knee bouncing non-stop as if stopping would mean thinking about Morvax calling them parasites. Vivian opened a holo map on the table, projecting a 3D model of Yellowstone. Caldera Basin, geysers, red-hot magma pockets underneath. "We're not taking the tourist entrance," she said. "Grant's got an old research station under a former ranger outpost." Ash leaned back, half grinning. "Of course he does." The jet landed in darkness near the tree line. On the ground there were only black tree trunks, the red glow of the taillight, and night insects. They crossed the woods, handheld lights sweeping the trunks until an old wooden cabin came into view, its sign reading, Ranger Station, closed. Vivian pushed the door. The hinges squealed. Inside, dust-coated tables and chairs, and a park map hung crooked on the wall. Grant's voice came through their earpieces. "Entrance is in the basement. Fake fire gear cabinet. Pull it out." Amber yanked the cabinet. The whole unit slid aside, revealing a steel ladder descending into darkness lit by intermittent industrial bulbs. "Welcome to Abyssal Access Tunnel A1, Grant said, half mocking himself. They climbed down, rung after cold rung. Damp stone and old metal smells mixed together. At last the ladder ended in a concrete corridor that spilled into a natural stone tunnel, artificial light giving way to mineral glow. "Welcome to the Abyssal Crossroads," Grant said. "From here on it knows you're there." They stepped into a cavern much larger than Chicago's. Massive tunnels poured in from 4 directions like rivers of stone flowing to a center point. On the ceiling, glowing mineral veins formed a network like a neural map, pale gold light pulsing in a steady beat. At the center, instead of nests, there was an empty space, as if reserved for something that didn't exist in normal space. "This is the interface layer," Grant said. "But before you reach it, Morvax will test you." Lana felt a small stab at her temples, like the start of a headache. Amber rubbed her brow, wincing. "Grant," Vivian called. "We're feeling—" Her sentence cut off as the cavern's light shifted. The stone walls seemed to stretch and then snap back. In a blink, the team was no longer together. Lana opened her eyes in New York. But not the real one. Times Square was dark, lit only by sickly gold leaking from giant cracks. Skyscrapers were snapped in half. Billboards dangled. No cars. No people. Amber stood a few meters away, clothes torn, a child's backpack dusty in her hands. "I ran as fast as I could," Amber said hoarsely. "Still didn't make it." Lana looked around. At each fissure, stone human figures stood frozen mid-run, mid-embrace, mid-shielding. "If Morvax wins, this is your future," a voice spoke through the rock. "No noise, no parasites." Amber turned to Lana. "If we just stop, don't drag it out, don't fight. Morvax sleeps, Earth is clean, only we have to hurt." Lana looked at the backpack in Amber's hands. It gaped open, showing a small stuffed animal, dusty and singed. "This isn't real," Lana said, voice tight. "If you give in here next time, it won't be an illusion." Amber let out a tearful laugh. "Maybe Morvax is right. People die because we keep trying to hold on to the old world." Lana grabbed Amber's shoulders, squeezing hard until the younger woman met her eyes. "If we let Morvax decide who deserves to live, these people died for nothing," Lana said. "I'd rather let humans screw up on our own than hand our fate to rock." Amber took a breath, looked at the stone figures, then dropped the backpack. It shattered like it was made of dust. The fake New York cracked apart. Buildings and statues crumbled, golden light retreating into a single point and winking out. Vivian found herself in Los Angeles. Freeway snapped in two, cars scorched black, but no protective domes around the civilians. Bodies lay scattered, broken, unshielded. In Vivian's hand, a shard of glass reflected her own blood-streaked face. "This is your world when your shield breaks." Morvax's voice rumbled through the concrete. Ash stood not far away, in the center of a charred ring, the mark of some massive blast. "I burned the monsters," he said flatly, "and everything else." Vivian stepped toward him, hair matted with dust and blood, but her gaze still sharp. "This is an illusion," Morvax interjected. "Illusion built from true fear. You know one day your shield will be late. The fire will spill and devour what you seek to keep." Ash let out a joyless chuckle. "It's not wrong. I'm not the clean hero type." Doesn't have to be clean, Vivian replied. Just has to point the right way. She raised her hand, forming a small shield around Ash's chest where his hands still leaked flame. You don't get to die over images someone else shoved in your head. Morvac said, you will burn this planet, wrapping shields around cities until the core tears itself apart. Vivian answered the empty air. If he's fire, I'm the shield between him and everything he might burn wrong. That's how an immune system should work too. Ash shrugged, but this time his smile had something real in it. That works for me, long as the shield doesn't choke the flame. The freeway scene blurred. Fire and corpses dissolved into bright dust that spiraled into a golden tunnel, then vanished. Mira opened her eyes in the Colorado infirmary, but this time the room was dark and empty, with only Logan's bed lit up. She walked closer and saw the bed was empty. Only Logan's sword lay across the sheets. You cannot protect your kin. Morvax's voice echoed through the walls, cold and even. They will fracture, one by one. Mira grabbed the sword. It felt heavier than usual, as if its owner's whole weight had sunk into the steel. I'm not the one who keeps people alive, she replied. I'm the one who gets them a little farther than where they thought they'd fall. When they drop, that's them and gravity, not me. The bed, machines, the whole room dissolved into darkness. The sword in her hand lightened, returning to its real weight. Lana, Amber, Vivian, Ash, and Mira fell back into the abyssal crossroads cavern one by one, like they'd been dropped from dreams onto cold rock. They looked at each other. No one needed to ask to know what each had faced. At the cavern's center, the interface void glowed brighter now, like a mineral heart opening its eye. Grant's voice came tense in their ears. I just registered a massive psychic sweep. Are you still standing? Standing, Lana answered, still feeling Morvax's heartbeat vibrating in her bones. And it knows us now. Vivian glanced at the glowing veins overhead, then at the central void. Then it's time to talk to the immune system. Somewhere deeper below them, Morvax silently listened to its own heartbeat echoing back from 6 tiny humans who dared to walk into the core. The secrets of the abyssal defense system had only begun to surface. The next battle wouldn't be about swarm numbers, but about who had the right to decide Earth's future. The pale gold glow at the center of the abyssal crossroads beat harder, like a stone heart shifting into a sprint. Lana tightened her grip on the reboot key, a small metal block whose surface never settled, trembling with every tremor. When you enter the interface zone, Morvax won't just see you, Grant said over comms. It will feel you. Vivian glanced around at the massive tunnels pouring into the crossroads. The good news is it already rests one test on us. Amber inhaled, pressing her palms together to stop the shaking. We passed midterms. Time for finals. Let's move, Lana said, taking the first step down the stone slope toward the glowing core. As they drew closer, the ground simply stopped. Before them yawned a vast chasm, bottomless, spanned only by thin golden strands of light forming a bridge as delicate as mist. Interface bridge, Grant said. It reads your footsteps. Hesitate and it fractures. Ash smirked. Love the whole walk or die layout. Vivian stepped on first, activating a thin shield under her boots, its pale blue mixing with the bridge's gold. Lana followed, matching her heartbeat to the pulsing light. She felt each tiny vibration in the bridge like notes in a song. Amber, Ash, and Mira formed a single file line, a thin silhouette drawn across the stone sky. Midway, the bridge shuddered hard. On either side, blocks of mineral shell extruded from the walls, locking together into massive turret-like forms. Core Citadel outer wall, Grant said quickly. It's going to fire cross-cut tremor waves. The stone turrets roared, launching golden shock rings like blades slicing across the bridge. Lana stomped down, sending a counterwave along the bridge, bending the oncoming rings like water currents being diverted. "Amber!" Vivian shouted. "The rest are yours." Amber bolted forward in an orange blur, sprinting against the waves as she slapped each ring with tiny hooks of motion, nudging them off course. At the rear, Ash raised his hands, conjuring twin walls of flame along both sides of the bridge, forcing the turrets to fire through heat distortion that weakened their blasts. "Don't stop!" Mira yelled, speeding up, her body half blending into the bridge's shadows, half defined in gold. They cleared the bridge just as the last shock rings shattered behind them, leaving the golden span cracked and then slowly knitting back together like a clotting wound. Before them, the core citadel emerged, a colossal fortress of crystal-laced stone suspended in nothing, ringed by pillars, plugging into the planet's shell like veins. Its walls were layered hexagonal plates etched with ancient seismic glyphs, blinking like a living control panel. "This is where Morvax tunes the crust," Grant whispered. "The planet's central nervous system control room." In the fortress's center yawned a circular gate, with no door, just a region of warped space where light from beyond bent strangely. "The reboot key must be slotted into the central spire just beyond that gate," Grant said. "But Morvax won't let you just walk up to it." As if in answer, hexagonal plates below the portal slid aside, revealing a wide stone balcony. On it stood Earthborn twice human height, armor thicker, lined in formation. "Guardians," Mira said quietly. "Final defense layer. You keep them busy," Lana said. "Vivian and I take the reboot key through." Amber smirked, no tremor this time. "Cool. Always wanted to sprint on the planet's central nervous system." Ash stepped up first, swinging one arm to launch a serpent of fire through the air, slamming into the front line of Guardians. The fire didn't melt their stone shells, but it forced them back, opening a few precious meters of space on the balcony. Amber shot forward, slamming shoulder and the backs of her hands into flank Guardians, her speed turning her body mass into hammer blows. Mira leaped high, dissolving into a slim gust, reappearing behind a Guardian to drive her blade into a neck joint before fading out again. Vivian raised a shield corridor from their platform to the balcony edge, a transparent tunnel just wide enough for two to run abreast. "Go," she said to Lana. "You set the rhythm." Lana sprinted through the shield corridor, each footfall a micro-tremor that kept the tunnel from shaking apart under outside impacts. A Guardian launched a stone projectile from its arm. It smashed into the corridor wall. Vivian stepped back, thickening the shield at the impact point, shattering the rock into dust. Ash and Amber held the rear, constantly trimming the number of pursuing Guardians. Mira flowed through shadows, carving at knees, eyes, any exposed joint. Lana and Vivian burst out of the corridor at the balcony's lip, facing the warped space gate of the Citadel right in front of them. On the surface in New York, a series of hairline fractures crawled along Fifth Avenue like someone scratching the city's skin with a needle. In Los Angeles, the freeway where Vivian had fought shook again. This time the pillars held, but stone dust fell like light rain. In Miami, harbor waters rippled to invisible tremors, boats bobbing as if hands slapped the sea from below. In Seattle, downtown windows vibrated non-stop, but didn't crack, as if Morvax was tapping to test them. In Chicago, the old sinkhole, now bandaged with fresh concrete and steel, flickered faint gold at the bottom, Morvax's eyelid refusing to close. Lana and Vivian stepped through the gate. For a moment, they were stretched into lines, then snapped back into a space with no floor or ceiling. They stood on a transparent plane above a projection of Earth, not geographic, but a living map of faults, tectonic plates, and magma flow. From the ceiling, columns of light hung like countless pendulums, each one a seismic zone on the surface. At the chamber's center rose a tall mineral pillar, its bark-like surface glowing yellow-green, swelling gently with each tremor. the core spire of Morvax. "That's where the reboot key goes," Grant said. "Touch it and Morvax will react like you just stabbed its spinal cord." Lana moved toward the pillar, each step sending ripples into the Earth map below, making fault lines vibrate like strings. "Morvax," she said, no need to shout. "You want to reset this planet. I don't." Morvax's voice filled the chamber, no longer from rock, but from everywhere at once. "You carry my rhythm, yet oppose my function." Vivian took a flanking position, extending a bubble shield around Lana. "It's scanning us," she murmured. Outside, Amber, Ash, and Mira clung to the balcony, Guardian numbers thinning as the remaining ones fused with the wall into hulking mobile armor clusters. "We just need them off the gate," Mira said, slicing at a leg joint of a charging construct. Ash inhaled, drawing fire into both palms, forming a white-hot plasma ball that he hurled at the thickest armor mass. Amber used the blast as a springboard, diving into the low-pressure pocket to rip a plate of armor free, exposing the softer mineral core beneath. "Hey, immune system," Ash growled, lancing a narrow flame stream into the exposed core. "We're just burning the bugs, not the host." Inside the Citadel, Morvax said, "Your rhythms have reached the surface." In the Colorado infirmary, Logan jolted awake. His heart monitor spiked, lines sharpening into jagged waves. The sword leaning against the wall vibrated, humming low like a gong, harmonizing with Morvax's undertone. "Grant," Logan panted. "Morvax isn't just hearing them, it hears me too." Grant swiveled, staring at the overlapping energy graphs. Lana, Vivian, Amber, Ash, Mara, and now Logan. "It's reading you as a 6-part filter," he muttered. "If we sync you, we might overwrite the command." In the Citadel, Lana placed her hand on the core spire, pressing the reboot key to its mineral skin. It was ice cold, with molten heat just underneath. "Now," Grant said, "all of you focus on one thought. Sleep deep. Don't wipe clean." Lana thought of a crowded New York, kids pointing at her horns and laughing. Vivian thought of domes she'd raised in Chicago where people had lived through storms of stone and metal. Amber recalled the child's backpack from the illusion, then the very real bus passengers she'd yanked onto the sidewalk, gasping but alive. Ash thought of the burn ring in Chicago. Not the illusory graveyard, but the real one he'd used to block monsters from the crowd. Mira thought of Logan on the hospital bed and the drink in Seattle he still owed her. Logan, back in Colorado, closed his eyes, laying his hand on the thrumming sword. He thought simply, "Survive. All of us." In the Citadel, the core spire flared, yellow-green veins extending to coil around the reboot key as if smelling it. Morvax spoke again, lower. "Sleep, without erasure, will allow parasites to persist." "Not parasites," Lana replied. "A new ecosystem. You handled things from out there. Let us handle the mess up here." Beneath them, the Earth map flickered wildly, fault lines blinking like city lights in a storm, plates twitching, then pausing. Morvax's core spire surged once, then contracted, its glow shifting from yellow-green toward washed-out white. On the surface, cracks in New York, LA, Miami, Seattle, Chicago all stopped spreading. The whole world held its breath for a few seconds. "It's going into sleep mode," Grant whispered. "We did I." Suddenly, an enormous pulse shot from the core spire up into the Citadel's ceiling, then through rock, driving straight upward like reversed lightning. The Earth map zoomed into Yellowstone. The whole region flared, its tremor pattern splitting into its own heartbeat, out of sync with the planet. Morvax's voice returned, now with noisy interference as if two voices overlapped. "Sleep deep, but leave behind a watcher." In Yellowstone's dark forest, the ground cracked in a perfect circle hundreds of meters wide, yellow-green light seeping around the rim like the eyelid of something newly awake. Lana looked up at the Citadel's ceiling where the pulse had shot through. We just, installed a side program in its immune system, Grant said, voice heavy. Morvax will sleep, but Yellowstone just became a new core citadel on the surface, half it, half you. The assault on the core citadel was over, not with a clean victory, but by dragging the battlefield from the planet's core up to its skin. At dawn in Wyoming, mist still clung to the pine tops when the ground in Yellowstone's forest began to glow. A perfect circle, wider than a stadium, carved itself into soil and rock, yellow-green light seeping around the rim like coals under ash. Nearby bison herds bolted in panic. Birds fell abruptly silent, leaving only the steady heartbeat of the earth somewhere below. Inside the core citadel, the washed-out light on the central spire softened. Tremor waves sank deeper, like the long exhale of a giant finally giving in to sleep. Lana pulled her hand from the spire. The reboot key was now just cold metal, no vibration, no glow. Vivian let the shield drop, breathing hard. It's asleep, but it doesn't trust us yet. Space around them twisted again. In a blink, the transparent plane, the Earth map, the core spire, all shattered into shards of light and vanished. Lana, Vivian, Amber, Ash, and Mira slammed back onto stone at the abyssal crossroads tunnel, near where they'd first stood. Grant's voice came quickly over comms. Morvax's signal is dropping, global stability improving, except Yellowstone. Lana sat up with her back to the wall. We know, she said quietly. It left a watcher on the surface. We've got one more round, Vivian said, standing and offering a hand to haul each of them up. In Colorado, Logan retied his hospital gown, bandages wrapped around his chest, eyes clearer than they'd been in days. The sword by the wall still quivered, impatient. Logan reached for it. The blade calmed, falling silent in his grip. A nurse rushed in. You can't. Logan simply pointed at the Morvax energy monitor. Yellowstone, he said. If I don't go, this wound doesn't mean anything. Moments later, the hangar doors opened. The GeoGuardian's jet powered up, green cabin lights reflecting across Logan's face as he walked up the ramp. At Yellowstone, the glowing ring had opened into a perfect new caldera.
Sir, you need to wait.
Inside, instead of lava, a mineral structure rose, smaller than the deep core citadel, but clearly related. It looked like a gigantic stone lotus, mineral petals unfurling around a bright yellow-white core, whose tremors were gentler than Morvax's, but sharper. Park rangers and FEMA teams had set barricades a few hundred yards from the caldera. Ambulances, cruisers, and command tents thrown up on gently trembling ground. A young ranger, name tag reading Martinez, whispered, "Volcanoes don't do that." The GeoGuardian's jet settled into a clearing not far away, dust and dry leaves whipping up as the landing gear kissed soft earth. Lana walked out first, bruises mottling her neck, eyes a little sunken, but her stride steady. Logan followed, hospital gown hidden under a combat jacket, bandages beneath, sword slung across his back. Amber saw him and whistled softly. "If you die out here, I'm charging you a tip," she said. Vivian, Ash, and Mira fell in behind, meeting FEMA command at the barricade. A middle-aged FEMA chief flashed her ID. "You folks from which agency?" Vivian answered simply. "GeoGuardians. Federal contract. We handle inside the circle. You hold the outside." As they neared the caldera rim, the glow in the mineral lotus changed rhythm. Not Morvax's heavy heartbeat, but something quicker, nimbler. Lana closed her eyes and set her palm on the ground. The whole Yellowstone ring bloomed in her mind as a living seismic map. A new voice rose in the stone, not as heavy as Morvax, younger, sharper, like an incomplete copy. "Designation, Watcher Node Yellowstone," the voice said. "Function, Monitor. Intervene when surface exceeds tolerance." Amber whispered. "Sounds like Morvax installed a beta update of itself." The Watcher continued. Proposal: increase selective seismic activity to force evacuation from high-risk human zones, reduce total long-term loss. In the air, light streaks sketched city projections. Los Angeles, Seattle, New York. No detail, just glowing cubes on a dark plain. The Watcher wants planned quakes to clear high-risk zones, Vivian said, voice cool, using fear as population management. Supplemental proposal, the Watcher said. Grant Yellowstone node priority, calibrated by the 6 GeoGuardian moral parameters. Logan frowned. It wants us to be its moral filter. If we refuse, Mira asked bluntly. Fallback option, self-calibration using historical Morvax data. Probability, 78% erasure of one or more population clusters to optimize stability. A heavy silence spread. Wind moved through the pines, carrying a faint whiff of sulfur from below. Lana looked at each of them. Amber, Ash, Mira, Logan, Vivian. Each a different tremor pattern, all silent now. If we accept, Lana said, every major quake from now on goes through us. Every call, every life. Ash snorted. Still beats letting some ancient core algorithm roll the dice for us. Vivian said, if we're the filter, we're also the override. No Watcher reversing us when it disagrees. The Watcher fell silent for a second, as if processing. Light on the mineral petals cycled through colors before settling back to yellow-white. Condition accepted. GeoGuardians hold absolute veto. Consequence: increased risk of geologic instability if filter malfunctions. Logan nodded. We won't let the filter break, Mira added. And if it drifts, we're the first ones back down here to fix it. The Watcher said, initiating moral link protocol. 6 rhythms. 6 slender beams extended from the lotus core to each of them, stopping inches away, waiting to be touched. Amber pressed 2 fingers into her beam. Her mind flickered through hundreds of graphs, thousands of homes, bridges trembling in the wind. Ash touched his beam and felt magma heat, upward pressure, realizing his flames were just sparks in a giant forge. Vivian saw invisible domes over cities, not from energy fields, but from the choice to not trigger quakes there. Mira walked through dark data tunnels where each junction was an if. If this fault slips, if it holds. Logan stood over a global fault map. His sword plunged into the biggest junctions, pinning them as temporary pegs. Lana saw no pictures, only rhythm. Morvax's pulse, the Watcher's new cadence, the faint stutter of a small town's microfractures, the chaotic tremor of a city shaking itself. When the 6 pulled back, the beams dissipated. The mineral lotus folded in somewhat, its yellow-white glow dimming to a gentle dawn light. Watcher will sleep alongside Morvax most cycles, it said, voice less sharp now. It wakes when summoned, or when stability is critically threatened. Don't wake yourself just because humans put up one more ugly bridge, Ash said. Aesthetic parameter, ignored, the Watcher replied, apparently serious. At the barricade, Ranger Martinez lowered his binoculars and glanced at the FEMA chief. So, I guess we're not evacuating all of Wyoming today. Days later, American headlines filled the newsstands. Mystery quake at Yellowstone stabilizes. New federal task force, GeoGuardians confirmed. In New York, the kid who'd pointed at Lana's horns watched her on a phone video now, eyes shining, asking his mom, "She protects us, right?" In Chicago, crack lines in the streets were painted over, turned into patterns instead of scars. In Denver, Dr. Grant saved the final Abyssal Defense Project file into a folder labeled Legacy, then opened a new one. GeoGuardian interface. In the Colorado mountain base, the 6 sat around a steel table, a world map spread across it. Fault lines no longer in warning red, but in many colors like rivers. So what are we officially now? Amber asked. Seismic Avengers? Ash shook his head. Terrible name. Accurate concept, though. Logan looked over at Lana. Is the Watcher part of us, or are we part of it? Lana thought for a moment, then answered, "Doesn't matter, as long as when the ground shakes, we're the ones choosing not to leave people behind." Deep beneath Yellowstone, Morvac slept. Its heartbeat merged with Earth's rotation. Beside it, the smaller, newer Watcher kept one eye closed, one eye
So the
open.
question is not if
On
it
the
works,
surface,
but
wind
if we
moved through the
deserve it to.
pines, over hot rock and geysers, carrying a silent promise.
our moment to redefine
When the
what's
last tremor
possible.
comes,
We move
it won't come
forward as
alone.
one,
It will
committed
carry
to this
6
mission
human
above
heartbeats
all
with it.
else.